with something here. Anderson Air Force Base, I understand. This is in Guam, of course. Leaders there recently received an official email that prohibited them from using pronouns or descriptors like he, she, youngest, oldest, male, or female. Why is that? I mean, what's going on?
Senator Hawley, thank you for that question. Actually, that is, we've been talking a lot about that because it was an email, from my understanding, that went out locally from one of the commanders there, and I don't remember at what level. I don't know if it was a group commander or the wing commander there. I believe that it was a Facebook post that went out based on a question. It is not the Air Force policy to not use pronouns. And so I think it was a social media, exacerbated by individuals that said that they were directed for that.
Okay, good. Well, I think that's progress. So you're saying, I'm looking at a news article here published August 31, 2022, saying that PACAF has sent this letter around. Leaders of the base are instructed.
What just went down in Congress today? Senator Josh Hawley absolutely pressed military leaders. First over the shocking living conditions at Fort Leonard Wood, then over a bizarre no pronouns controversy coming out of Guam. And the answers he got? Let's just say they raised even more questions.
Thank you very much to the ranking member, and thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks to the witnesses for being here. General Stitt, let me talk with you. Let me start with you if I could. I have spoken repeatedly with the Secretary of the Army about replacing aging homes at Fort Leonard Wood in my home state, and there is no doubt in my mind that service members deserve better than they are getting right now. I was just there a few weeks ago. I toured the homes myself. I spoke to residents. I spoke to spouses. I spoke to children who lived in the homes. These homes need to be replaced. What concerns me is the Army doesn't seem to have a plan to replace this aging housing stock. So let me just ask you this. In your opinion, how does the availability or maybe lack of availability of quality military housing for service members and their families affect recruiting and retention?
Senator Hawley, good afternoon. The Army takes the care and quality of life of all of our service members and their families very seriously. So we are making and committed to investing in our housing within not just that, but within our daycare centers, child care, offering opportunities, expanding beyond that for spousal employment, to put kind of a whole package on the table to ensure that our facilities and our care and commitment towards family members is first class.
You say a whole package. When will we be seeing this package?
Senator, we continue to work on it, and I can take that question for the record, please.
Well, that's fine. I mean, but let me just say again, for the record, I've said this in the full committee, I'll say it again here, that I think we're past the point of continuing to kick this down the road. I mean, this is a problem now. Frankly, at Fort Leonard Wood, it was a problem a decade ago. But listen, I've been there. I mean, I've seen it myself. I've talked to the service members myself. I've been in their houses. I've been in their kitchens. I've looked at their bathrooms where there's mold growing. I've seen that they don't have places for their kids. I've seen the substandard living conditions, and it just isn't acceptable, General. You know what? I promised those service members that I'd be a royal pain in the you-know-what until something changed. So I'm keeping that commitment, and I'm going to continue it until something changes. And frankly, I've heard this now it's going on 2 years. I've only been in the Senate 3, but I've heard it continuously that, well, we'll get to it, we'll get to it, we'll get to it. Well, at Fort Leonard Wood, we haven't gotten to it. And I bet, if we went around the table here, I bet that the other members of the subcommittee would have the same situation in their state. So I'll give you the question for the record, but I just want to put on notice again, and you can take this back, that I want to see some progress on this, and I want to see it soon. And what I don't want to see are any more commitments from the Army that they're going to spend X number of dollars. This happened last year. We're going to commit X number of dollars to Fort Leonard Wood, and then as it turns out, $0 were spent on housing. I'm still ticked off about that, and I don't want to see it happen again, and I want to see progress made. So that's my piece. I think you understand where I'm coming from. General Miller, let me come to you. Can you help me with something here? Anderson Air Force Base, I understand. This is in Guam, of course. Leaders there recently received an official email that prohibited them from using pronouns or descriptors like he, she, youngest, oldest, male, or female. Why is that? I mean, what's going on?
Senator Hawley, thank you for that question. Actually, that is, we've been talking a lot about that because it was an email, from my understanding, that went out locally from one of the commanders there, and I don't remember at what level. I don't know if it was a group commander or the wing commander there. I believe that it was a Facebook post that went out based on a question. It is not the Air Force policy to not use pronouns. And so I think it was a social media, exacerbated by individuals that said that they were directed for that.
Okay, good. Well, I think that's progress. So you're saying, I'm looking at a news article here published August 31, 2022, saying that PACAF has sent this letter around. Leaders of the base are instructed, do not use pronouns, age, race, etc. And they go on. The unauthorized examples of unauthorized language are male, female, youngest, oldest, he, she. But you're saying that that was not an official communication. That has not been a directive.
That is not an official communication from the HAF. Correct.
Okay. And so your position to me is today that is not policy, and that they have not been so instructed.
That is correct.
This is a social media
policy
kerfuffle. I mean, this is not real. It's not happening.
I don't know if it's not happening, but it is not an official policy from the Department of the Air Force.
Okay. I ask because part of the way it's been reported is that the rationale is to help with lethality and also recruiting. And it was curious as heck how not using he, she can help with lethality and how it's helping with recruiting. But I take your word for it that this is not policy, and that satisfies me. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Josh Hawley came into this hearing with one mission: demand accountability for America's service members. And the moment he got the microphone, he wasted no time. He began with Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, where thousands of service members and families live in housing that he described as outdated, moldy, substandard, and completely unacceptable. Hawley reminded the Army that he has physically visited these homes, walked into their kitchens, and seen firsthand the mold growing in bathrooms. He spoke to spouses and kids who are living in conditions far below what the military should ever allow. Hawley questioned why, after years of promises, the Army still has no real plan to replace the aging housing stock. The Army witness responded by saying they're committed to quality of life, mentioning childcare, spousal employment, and facility upgrades. But Hawley wasn't having it. He said he's tired of vague promises and "we'll get to it later" answers. He reminded them that last year they announced money would be spent on Fort Leonard Wood, but in reality, $0 went toward housing. He made it clear he intends to be a royal pain until those families get the quality of life they deserve. And he said he doubts Missouri is the only state with this problem. Then Hawley pivoted to something that raised eyebrows nationwide: an alleged email from Andersen Air Force Base in Guam telling leaders not to use pronouns like he, she, male, or female. Reports even claimed the reasoning was to help with recruiting and lethality. Yes, lethality. Hawley asked General Miller directly, "Is this real? Is the Air Force seriously banning pronouns?" Miller clarified that this was not an official Air Force policy and appears to be a local communication blown up by social media. She said headquarters never instructed anyone to stop using pronouns. Hawley pressed again, pointing to a 2022 report that claimed the message came from PACAF leadership. Miller repeated that the Air Force has no such policy. Hawley accepted that answer but said he was curious as heck how avoiding pronouns could possibly improve lethality or recruiting in the first place. In the end, Hawley made two things very clear. One, he's not letting the military avoid responsibility for housing. Two, he's not buying culture war confusion masquerading as military policy. And that's why this moment is getting so much attention. Hawley wasn't just questioning. He was challenging years of excuses, demanding transparency, and calling out mismanagement that affects readiness, morale, and America's military families. If these issues continue to unfold, this definitely won't be the last time we hear him raise them.